Maybe I should announce it. Should I?
I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm John.
On this episode of Battlecriesandchampagne, Heathen, album review, part 2.
Let's get this show on the road. Let's get atomic vibe.
All right, yeah, we're getting into the second half of the album. The last 6 songs on it. I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. We covered my favorite in this one, and apparently we're going to cover Aaron's in this next.
I know, yeah. I'm actually still undecided where I'm going to go with this, but it will be one of the songs we discuss.
We'll find out as we go along.
It's going to be pure. It's going to be, spur of the moment. But before we roll into that, I'd love to ask Andrew how you're doing.
Well, thank you for asking. I'm doing well, I'll say. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. It's been a busy few weeks at work. Also, we've been doing a few home improvement little projects. We got under cabinet lighting put in our kitchen. Nice. We ordered a backsplash, hasn't been installed yet. We ordered a new rug for our living room. So just little things. We're looking to buy a couple new chairs. So just, kind of spending our tax return there on a few little home improvement items.
I'd love to know if there's an episode as of yet where you have not talked about some form of home improvement. It sounds like it's just going on all the time.
It's a never ending task.
When will your home be improved enough that you're satisfied?
How much more can you improve? It will never be sufficiently improved. So that's the thing. It's a never-ending. By the time we're done, we'll just have to restart everything, right? Because the paint we chose 20 years ago will be out of date. So that's just how it goes. But yeah, so we ended the last episode talking about "I've Been Waiting for You," and at the very end of that song, there's this little choir music that kind of comes in, and I had interpreted that. Or I had made the comment that that's a little bit angelic, and I think that we're going to pick up the album here with "I Would Be Your Slave," and I think the theme of heaven and God comes back quite heavily in this song, or at least that's my interpretation. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it, but I'll let Aaron set the stage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first of all, I would say that the second half of the album really deals heavily with that theme of God, for sure, more so necessarily than the first half. Really, there isn't much to set the stage with here. This really the only interesting fact about "I Would Be Your Slave" is that it was the first song publicly performed from the album at the Tibet House benefit in early 2002. So this was the public's first taste of what was to come on the album. This is potentially the song I would suggest is my favorite on the album, especially recently. It's been just really hit me in the feels. It's so beautiful and heartbreaking. The strings on it I find are they just really are incredible. Yeah, it's just packed with emotion. So yeah, I don't know if there's really more I can say. It's just so emotional. I don't know if I can really just do it justice with description.
That's fair. I'm glad you said it stood out to you, because I agree. For me, I would say my number 2 favorite, just behind "Afraid," which I'd mentioned in the last episode. It really stuck out to me, and kind of somber feeling in this song.
Give me peace of mind at last. Show me all you hold. Open up your heart to me. I would be your slave.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew, you were going to say...
He's going to poop all over us. Right
no,
now.
I did find there's like a up.
Oh, yeah. It's his sound. These sounds just get to him.
That's this little thing that I would have taken that out. I don't know what that is. I don't know what makes that noise. It does bug me, though. And so that colors a little bit my interpretation of the whole song. But I agree. The string's fantastic. It is very powerful. I especially like there's a line where he's talking about there's no footprints in the sand or whatever, and some of our listeners will probably know there's kind of that I don't even know where it comes from. It's like a meme that Christians like to
Yeah,
share, where there's like, oh, I looked behind me as I was walking in the beach, and there were 2 sets of footprints because, you know, Jesus was walking with me even though I couldn't see him. And, you know, sometimes it looks like there's only 1 set of footprints, but that's because Jesus is carrying you, right? And it's meant to be all profound or whatever, but Bowie looks behind him and he sees no footprints. So it's like, oh, like, is he even real? What's going on here? What's your interpretation of that line?
Other than the fact that I thought it was just a sense of not recognizing a God in the world, I never even thought about it profoundly enough to think that, yeah, like you're saying, is the protagonist of the song even real? And that's a really interesting thought. Yeah,
it captures that longing, though, of like, if I could find a God, or, you know, I mean, you could interpret it, I guess, as like a romantic partner or whatever, but I think the primary interpretation is like a God that is kind of gonna set things right in the world. It's like, I will be a slave to that, you know, if I could find it. But I guess the implication is it doesn't exist.
yeah.
I would agree with all that. As far as the instrumentation, I know the sound you're talking about, Andrew. And to me, it sounds like kind of radio sounds, maybe an evocation of like space or sci-fi, you know, modern technology. Yeah, maybe transmission to a higher being, if I'm to read into it a lot. Aside from that, this is the first time on the album where it really struck me. It's like, okay, this is real drums. This is certainly not a drum machine throughout this. It felt like someone was clearly drumming for real with it. And if I'm wrong, I will be incredibly sad.
Are we okay to move on to the next song?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, let's do it.
Peek through the crack, look way back, stardust trail leading back to you. What did I do? What could I do? Yes, what did I do? Well, I thought about you.
This is the final cover on the album. It was originally a song by the legendary Stardust Cowboy, a.k.a. Norman Carl Odom, and it was written in the late 60s. Bowie had been introduced to this record by an executive for his label at the time, Ron Oberman, who felt that Bowie might appreciate this quote-unquote weird shit.
It is. You listen to the original.
Yes, we'll get to it in just a second. Bowie rediscovered this song and the legendary Stardust Cowboy in the early 2000s when he found an early website written by the legendary Stardust Cowboy, where he was kind of going after Bowie for freeloading off of the Stardust name. You know, he felt that he'd used it for Ziggy Stardust, and apparently it was sufficient enough to trigger Bowie's guilt that he decided, okay, I'm going to record a cover of one of his songs, give him some royalties, hopefully make it up to him. And then an interesting kind of story behind the scenes is that Christine Young, that singer-songwriter who played some keyboards on the album and did some backing vocals, she suggested replacing this high-pitched synth that Bowie had recorded with her own voice on the track. And then Bowie's reply said that this is a Bowie's album. So
what? He's married, he's raising a daughter. I don't know. That doesn't mean a lot, I guess.
But he also was, born in post-World War II UK. So, I mean, there are some traditional values there, probably. Anyway, Visconti, I guess being a little more progressive, decided we're going to record this idea that Christine Young has, and we're just going to put it on the album. And apparently Bowie grew to appreciate the idea. And speaking of Bowie's daughter, this was apparently her favorite song on the album when she was 2 years old. I mean, it is, probably one of the more energetic tracks on it, so I can see it impressing a young child.
That's a great segue into saying that as opposed to the 2-year-old daughter of Bowie, this is my least favorite song on the album.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a real departure from the feel of the rest of the album. It feels, and knowing it's a cover, I understand that, the content wasn't directly created by Bowie, but it feels pretty hokey and insincere compared to the rest of the album to me. And I mean, granted, I think it's maybe got a place in Bowie's discography. It just kind of was a jarring listen compared to the rest of the album, and it really was set apart in a way that didn't appeal to me.
It's kind of a strange, kind of slightly disorienting piece. It is the only other love song on that album, and it's interesting that the only 2 love songs on this album are both covers. Like, that's clearly not his focus here. Yeah, I kind of agree. It's not a huge strong suit. The most annoying part of this track was again. It's just that, like, okay, why does he say spacecraft on the? Like, I kind of understand that maybe it messes up his rhyming scheme, or what, like he doesn't want ship to rhyme with trip, or I don't know. But if that's the case, then he could have called the song a Gemini spacecraft, and it would have been fine. But it's just like, it ought to match, right? Like, that just really bugs me.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're thinking about in the context of the original song from the late 60s, like, describing something as a spacecraft was still, I guess, a very new and current thing, or whatever, you know? It was novel, I suppose.
And can we just say a word about the original?
I want to hear what you guys think about it.
And looked way back. Start this trail leading back to you. What did I do? What could I do? Yes, what did I do? Well, I thought about you.
Oh, I found it so grating. I just, with all due respect to Mr. Odom there, like, it's just the cadence of this was really off-putting. The kind of Jupiter, the face gun effect was really annoying. There's not a lot to commend this, really.
Yeah, well, so you're picking up on the spacecraft thing you find annoying. I find it annoying that he pronounces Gemini Jiminy.
Well, I will say about that the actual astronauts who flew on those would have said Gemini.
Oh.
So you or I would say Gemini. That's how most people... But this is like a NASA thing where they say Gemini for some reason that I could not explain to you. So I agree it sounds dumb, but it kind of is historically accurate in a way, right?
It's such a funky, weird, abstract, experimental sounding song, and I appreciate songs like that. It doesn't appeal to me. I wouldn't go back and listen to it. It's very funny, lazy, kind of half asleep or half drunk singing. But you know what? It did remind me of, maybe somebody in our audience will recognize this, Kurt Weill. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kurt Weill, but he has very funky, weird, kind of wavering lyrics, and he has a pretty unconventional way of singing that is similar, not exactly the same, but it reminded me a bit of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm re-listening to it right now, and it's a little jarring in a very slow, grating way, as you say.
Yeah, I find on the original that, like, the drums are the most annoying because, like, they don't follow a clear pattern, and, like, I feel like the drum fills just come in whenever it feels like they want to come in, so that bothers me. But I think Bowie really, really, really improved this song on his cover. So I agree, it doesn't fit with the Heathen theme. Maybe it's not the best fit, but, like, just what he did to the song.
I agree completely. Yeah, elevated it by a lot, and brought a whole new energy to it, and made it something of substance for me.
I would rather have the Bowie version,
but yeah, I don't really appreciate it as being part of the album, as improving the album.
And again, we have this kind of convoluted cover thing going on, because, you know, Bowie's covering the song by the legendary Stardust Cowboy, which itself was initially basically a lyrical spoof of the song, the jazz standard I Thought About You. So yeah, there's multi layers of things going on with the covers on this album. Okay, moving on. The next song is 5:15, The Angels Have Gone.
I'm changing time. We never talk anymore. Forever, I will adore you.
The 5:15 reference is talking about a train in the 60s that connected London to the suburbs that many teens would use to get home after a late night out on the town. Very, very, very strangely, a review of the album that I read called this song a Let's Dance homage. And I feel like this is not a very dancey song, and so I'm not really sure where picking that up from.
Are they saying that in reference to the origin of it being a post-party train?
That is very strange. I couldn't tell you why they would have thought that. That's bizarre. There was a song by The Who called 5:15.
Yes, yeah.
I guess about the same train, which is much more of like a party song. It's like that one came out in, if I'm remembering correctly, early 70s. So it would have been about people out partying in like Carnaby Street or wherever in London, and then they're taking the train home after, kind of reminiscing about their night. But then of course Let's Dance hadn't even come out at that point, so it's not like they were confusing the two versions of the song even. So I'm not sure what that would. It's very bizarre.
Anyway, I think this is another great song. I think it's again, it's got a lot of heaviness to it, very atmospheric. I love the percussion and drums on this one. Yeah, lyrics are very evocative.
Yeah, it kind of feels very British to me. Like, I know he's living in the UK, in New York at this point, but there's like, he's waiting for the train, and the train is late, and it's raining, and he's like reflecting on his life or whatever, and that just feels very like kind of depressed British person type of song. Like in New York, it would be like a Taxi or something, right? But yeah, no, I agree. I like this piece. It's vibey. He kind of starts off soft and then screams out that chorus.
Yes,
that first chorus. It's like abrupt for sure. But
I agree with what you said about the vibes in this song. Like, honestly, I feel like I've had these feelings or these vibes when I'm standing at a bus stop or a train station on my morning commutes. Here, where I live in Calgary, there's a commuter train that runs through the city, and I've been there at like 6 a.m. or whatever, standing out in the cold, and just kind of, it's quiet all around. The city's half asleep still, and you're out there just kind of by yourself, waiting for the next train to come along in however many minutes, and maybe it's late, and it's just kind of feels like a mundane kind of like in-between point in daily life where we all experience these things, these delays in one being at home to being at work, or being in one place to the other. It's like transient.
These liminal
liminal
spaces.
space.
Do you find yourself reflecting in those moments on, like, you know, because I think for him, like, the change of trains is kind of a metaphor almost for, like, can he make changes in his life or whatever. Like, do you find those moments thought-provoking? Or
yeah, I think I do. I try to put thought into them. Normally I'm like reading a book or something on the train, but when I'm standing at a train stop, I'm typically not.
Yeah.
It was interesting. One of the train stops I actually was at routinely was directly across from the oldest Legion in Calgary, or I think it's the oldest in Western Canada, built in the early, well, I guess just after World War One in downtown Calgary. And it's so interesting because you have all these glass skyscrapers around you, and then you just have this this train station you're standing at, all very modern, and then across from you is this old brick building that stood the test of time, and it's just kind of from a completely different era.
And that's because you're a tradesman who gets up early, that you're waiting for the train at 6 a.m. or 5 or whatever. It's not because you've been out since the evening before and, you know, you're full of drugs and regret.
Oh, no.
The next song is Everyone Says Hi.
I'd love to get a letter, like to know what's what. Hope the weather's good and it's not too hot.
This song was inspired by Bowie reflecting on losing his dad, which had happened in the late 60s, and at the time of recording Heathen, he'd also recently just lost his mother. So I guess that maybe brought back feelings of how he felt when he lost his dad, and he said this is kind of like how he coped with that. It was just by, you know, pretending he'd just gone out for a little bit and that he would return, right? Bowie's dad had a huge influence on him. He was, you know, the parental figure who really had a lot of confidence in him and supported his adventures in the artistic field, and he also supported, you know, exploring different religious beliefs and stuff like that, so that, you know, obviously opened up Bowie's mind to different ways of thinking. Now, the song also features the return of Carlos Alomar on guitar, and although this was recorded during the proper sessions for Heathen. It was under Columbia's ask that the song was kind of stripped down by popular producers Brian Rawling and Gary Miller. Brian Rawling had worked famously on Cher's Believe album, and they basically brought in other session musicians to rebuild up the song, hoping that it would create some interest as a single, which it later was released as a single. And this actually was the song that got me into later period Bowie as a young Bowie fan. You know, I gravitated more towards the 70s stuff. I found some of the 90s stuff interesting, but I didn't really like it, I would say. But once I heard Everyone Says Hi, and I think it just came on shuffle on my iPod at the time, and I thought, like, how could I have ignored this fantastic song? And then I went and listened to the album, and I couldn't believe how incredible it was. And that's where I really recognized that Bowie was an artist of importance outside of the 1970s. So this song is very, very important for me. And I think, you know, the lyrics, if you just read them, are not super complex, but I think they really evoke complex ideas just by being so simple.
Yeah, this is also the first song that I can remember listening to from the more recent Bowie catalog, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, same here. So we all kind of had that experience.
I mean, it's the most singleable song on the album. I'd never thought of it as being about loss or death before, and then kind of revisiting it in that light, like the lyrics hit differently for sure. Like, it's quite poignant when you think of it as like this little kid who's thinking like he's trying to send a message or communicate with his parent and saying, like, you can come back if you don't like it there. Like, it's quite sad, actually, but it's also like a kind of upbeat song, so it plays tricks on you a little bit in that way. This has been stuck in my head for the last couple of weeks, the kind of da 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 da. Yeah, I don't know, it's catchy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know when exactly, but Aaron turned me on to this song many years ago, and it is, I think, before really listening to this album in earnest, the only song I remembered quite well from it. It's a standout, and it is fairly simple, but, you know, with my recent experience of losing a friend, it made me reflect on it in that way. Is like it's a metaphor of someone going away from you in a permanent fashion, and, you know, you kind of think about, you know, the good times you had, and, you know, the things you miss about them, and the regrets you may have about now having their absence weighing on you. It's a really interesting and introspective kind of song, right up until he says, "and your big fat dog" at the end.
I think that's a nice little payoff.
I think
there.
it's
Nice
such
little
a
joke, you know?
funny lyric. I'm like, it's such a like a sincere song, and it doesn't mean it isn't when he says "your big fat dog," but it's just when I heard that little pang as it's fading out, he says, "and your big fat dog," and I'm like, that's hilarious, but so unnecessary. Why did you say "and your big fat dog"? This goes to show that the choices that Bowie makes with his lyrics sometimes should just be kind of humorous.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the penultimate track is A Better Future.
I might just stop wanting you. I might just stop needing you. I might just stop loving you. I demand a better future.
This song was, Bowie said he really wrote it for his daughter, who was 2 years old at the time of release, and was a threat to God, basically saying, like, you know, you gotta make this world, you gotta improve this world, or else. Because you know,
an ultimatum.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if my daughter is gonna have a good life, things got to work out here. So it's a good song, and it's kind of a nice reversal from like the more submissive pleading position of 515 and I Would Be Your Slave. Here he's like taking more of a strong stance against God. So that's kind of a nice little arc there as for the protagonist of the album.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny. It's like, you know, it's making some maybe pretty grave demands and stuff, but it's got such a cheerful kind of sound to it, which is an interesting contrast to like the kind of fear and uncertainty about the future that he kind of is grappling with in this song. Yeah, I thought it was really well composed.
Yeah, I have to say, like, for me, this was one of the weaker tracks. Like, I appreciate the fact that he wants a better future for his daughter and whatnot, but like, just kind of repeating that "I demand a better future" over and over again a bunch of times is like not necessarily the level of eloquence that I normally think of coming from a Bowie song.
There wasn't a lot of complexity to the lyrics. I have to agree with you there.
No, and the instrumentation on this, like, I mean, okay, again, like I said, there's nothing bad on this album, but I didn't find it hugely, massively compelling, to be perfectly honest with you, like, compared to some of the other earlier tracks that we talked about. So,
Okay, final track on the album, Heathen the Race.
I can see it now. I can feel it die.
This Bowie described as a traumatic epiphany when he was writing it, and this is generally my favorite song on the album. I say right now I'm kind of torn between it and I Would Be Your Slave, but I feel like this is just incredible. The synth bed that's on this song is fantastic. The drums, love them. And I just feel like, you know, going from Sunday to Heathen is just, when he's talking about in Sunday that, you know, nothing has changed, everything has changed, and then now he's saying, I can see it now. Like, I feel like there's something going on there, you know? I feel like the way I interpret it is just seeing that there's absolutely nothing as he's dying. And lots of people obviously justifiably see Black Star as a swan song and a great kind of farewell to life. But I feel like Heathen does such a better job of that than any song on that album. I think this is just an incredible song about mortality.
Yeah, there's definitely a line from this to Black Star, right? And actually, I was thinking about this the other day, but like, if this had been the last thing he'd ever put out and he'd pass away shortly after or whatever, like, it would have actually felt like a good conclusion. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have this like album length farewell, but well, in a way, actually, maybe like, you know, he kind of starts out, there's a lot of nostalgia in this album. Mm-hmm. Like, he's looking back on his life, he demands a better future for his daughter, and then he says like, okay, I'm done now, I'm moving on. So like, maybe in a way, actually, it does work for that. But particularly this song, yeah, it's like, we discussed the order of the songs in the beginning and whether they could have been structured better. That was a topic of the last episode, but I feel like we probably all agree that this is the best way to end this album.
Oh yeah, I think Aaron absolutely nailed it when he said like, this is like the perfect kind of swan song for this album, but perhaps like Bowie's career, you know. And it feels like a somber but calm realization about what he's been talking about in this album, like a coming to terms. It's interesting. It doesn't leave me full of despair either. Like, there's the uplifting kind of horns, but not like cheerful, but you know, feels like there's hope on the horizon, but he may not see it or get to see it. I thought it was a really beautiful way to wrap up the album, and really complements the album as a whole, but also like a very good counterpart to the opening of Sunday. So
on that note, that's where we're going to end this episode. Next episode, we'll give you our kind of final thoughts on the album as a whole. We'll give you our thoughts on the album artwork, and we'll talk about some of the music videos. So until then,
don't forget to keep your hat warm.
Please come alive. Please come alive. 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 Aye. Twinkle, twinkle, Uncle Floyd.